If you look at Steven Spielberg's filmography, you may wonder how so many different films came from one mind. How does the same brain create the high-flying adventure of Indiana Jones and the heart-wrenching reality of Schindler's List? When it comes to Spielberg, these contradictions are a feature, not a bug. He has always pushed himself and filmmaking to the limit. While many critics call him one of the greatest directors in the world,
Thank you.
there are others who claim he destroyed Hollywood.
There were people that blamed him for ruining the movies.
So, how did Steven Spielberg become one of cinema's most influential filmmakers? Spielberg was born in Cincinnati, but he didn't stay long. His father's job took the family to New Jersey, then Arizona, and then finally California. Spielberg, nerdy, awkward, and always the new kid in town, struggled to adjust. Frequently being the only Jewish kid in town didn't help him win the popularity contest either. He was constantly shamed.
He doesn't like Jews.
Nobody likes Jews.
The other kids even went to his home and chanted, "The Spielbergs are dirty Jews." The taunts got to him, and he started hiding his religion.
I began to deny my Jewishness. I didn't want to be Jewish anymore.
If his grandpa called him his Hebrew name, Shmuel, in public, he wouldn't respond. But if life at school wasn't easy, life at home wasn't much easier. When he was just 16, Spielberg and his family went on a camping trip with his dad's best friend. Being Steven Spielberg, he brought his camera along. But when he reviewed the footage from the trip, he saw his mom and his dad's friend getting a little too close. The affair devastated him, but he kept his mom's secret. 3 years later, his parents got divorced anyway, but it was his dad who took the blame. He told the kids the divorce was his idea.
I didn't know any of the details. I didn't know why they were splitting up. And I didn't for a long time. I didn't want to know.
Taking him at his word, Spielberg barely spoke to his dad for 15 years. Through all this pain, Spielberg had an outlet, his 8mm film camera. When he was filming, he was in control. He would recruit his friends and sisters to act for him and make neighborhood war films using cleverly placed props to recreate explosions and debris. The camera wasn't just a toy, it was how he expressed himself.
The camera was my pen. I wrote my stories through the lens. And when I was able to say action and cut, I wrested control of my life.
Through the lens, he could understand himself and his family. It's no surprise then that troubled families and the quest for freedom became constant themes throughout his films. His mother supported her son's creativity early on, but to his dad, it was just a hobby. Even Spielberg thought that one day he would move on to a real career. That day never came. Before long, his hobby became his life. The first step, college. The only catch? He wasn't a great student. He couldn't get to USC, UCLA, or the other top film programs.
And I even had a personal interview at USC, and they turned me down even in person.
Instead, he attended Cal State Long Beach. It's hard to say a more prestigious school would have helped him because he didn't spend much time in class. He was making short films and sneaking onto the Universal lot to watch the masters at work. Legend is, he even set up his own office and got kicked off of the set of an Alfred Hitchcock film. Turns out, trespassing was the best thing Spielberg could have done. By putting himself in the right place, Spielberg was able to get his work in front of the right people. In his case, the right person was Universal executive Sidney Scheinberg. When Scheinberg saw Spielberg's student film, he was so impressed he offered Spielberg a 7-year deal to direct television.
He said, "If you sign with us, I will support you as strongly in failure as I will in success."
Okay, let's stop and appreciate this for a second. He hadn't even started his senior year of college. And based on one short film, he became the youngest person ever contracted to direct TV. It goes without saying, but he didn't need school anymore. Spielberg's fancy new contract was met with anything but applause from Hollywood. He was just a kid. Did he really think he could just waltz into Hollywood like that? But the skeptics did little to stop him. After a few years, Spielberg got his first TV movie. His artistic instincts shone through early. When producers wanted a flashy explosion to kill off the truck, Spielberg insisted on a slow, symbolic death. His gamble paid off, and Hollywood took notice. Spielberg had proven himself on the small screen, and now he was ready for the big screen. His debut was a solid start, but his second film had people chomping at the bit. Powered by a deadly combo of adventure and suspense, Jaws got people in theaters like nothing before. People lined up around the block to buy a ticket, making it a literal blockbuster. With this one film, the entire summer blockbuster blueprint was created, paving the way for modern franchises. it quickly became the highest grossing film of all time, and Spielberg became a household name. While Jaws was a success, making it was a mess. Spielberg wanted his film to feel authentic, and he was ready to take risks to make it happen. So instead of filming the ocean scenes on a lake or at a studio like most directors, he filmed on the actual ocean. But Spielberg was no oceanographer. He didn't plan well for things like tides, wind, light reflecting off the water, or the fact that salt water and a giant mechanical shark don't mix.
Guys, we can't shoot right now, hold on.
Production was delayed again and again, but Spielberg adapted. His original plan was to show the mechanical shark throughout the film. Instead, to avoid using the problematic robot, Spielberg decided to film from the shark's point of view. This is what created the iconic hunting sequences people think of when they think of Jaws, and it ramped up the suspense. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. Despite Spielberg's ingenious solutions, the 55-day shoot took 159 days to complete. Things weren't looking good. Producers wanted to fire Spielberg, but Sidney Sheinberg had his back. The result was a classic. For his next film, Spielberg made his first of many trips into the world of aliens, pushing the boundaries of special effects even further. The result was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The main difference between Close Encounters and Jaws, other than the aliens, was the heart of the film. At its center, Close Encounters was about a family falling apart and an increasingly distant father. A story inspired by Spielberg's own life. Spielberg's childhood started to come through more directly, and in the end, he got another blockbuster under his belt. Spielberg felt invincible. All of his bets were paying off, so he placed another one and made a comedy. But this time, things didn't go so well. While still profitable, 1941's budget ballooned as Spielberg struggled to reel himself in. Production was anything but smooth, and the reviews were straight up bad. Suddenly, Spielberg was vulnerable. He wasn't sure where to go next, but at just the right time, his good friend George Lucas gave him a film to direct. It was about an archaeologist who adventures around the world looking for supernatural artifacts. Spielberg jumped on board, excited to put 1941 behind him. There was just one thing standing in the way. No one wanted to produce the film. Well, at least not with him directing. What Lucas didn't realize was that producers weren't very fond of Spielberg. He had a history of going over budget and schedule. And after 1941, people weren't so eager to throw their money at him. But he had learned from his experience. Spielberg promised Lucas that if he stuck with him, he would stick to the budget. In the end, the two of them delivered perhaps the most iconic hero in American film, one who had issues with his father, just like the director. It's hard to imagine how someone could possibly top Indiana Jones, but Spielberg delivered again the very next year. This time, it was E.T. the Extraterrestrial. The story of a boy and an alien became the highest grossing film of the year. The magical story continues to connect with generation after generation. I mean, who hasn't pointed a finger at the sky and said, E.T. phone home? For Spielberg, E.T. was deeply personal. Beneath the adventure, it was about divorce and the longing for connection, mirroring his own childhood experiences. Yet, in the most Spielberg way imaginable, he filtered these themes through a big-budget adventure that still excites millions. While Spielberg ruled the box office, he wasn't always welcome in Hollywood. Critics cried out that his films were not art, they were cheap entertainment. Even worse, they said the blockbuster was ruining Hollywood.
He said Steven Spielberg, as good as he is, has been bad for the movie business.
He wrote a piece, I read it. He said that Lucas and Spielberg had destroyed Hollywood. The point.
Spielberg could have ignored the critics, but he loved movies and wanted to prove himself as an artist. So in a bold move, he adapted The Color Purple, a story of self-discovery, empowerment, and resilience of an African-American woman in the early 20th century American South. He followed that with Empire of the Sun, an epic film about a child who loses his parents during the Japanese invasion of China in World War II. Both films received mixed reviews and failed to generate the ticket sales Spielberg was used to. Even though the films shared 17 Oscar nominations between them, critics said he was trying too hard to be something he wasn't. That serious films just weren't his thing, but Spielberg wasn't about to let someone else tell him what kind of films he could make. It's a good thing, too. Otherwise, we would have never gotten Schindler's List. When Spielberg first read about Oskar Schindler and the lives he saved during the Holocaust, he knew the story needed to be told. However, he didn't believe he was the right person to tell it. He tried to get other directors to take on the responsibility. It took 10 years, but in 1992, Spielberg finally decided he was ready to take on the most important film of his career. By the time he started on Schindler's List, Judaism was an essential part of Spielberg's life. His wife had even converted to Judaism before their marriage. Even so, making the film allowed him to come to terms with the shame he once felt for being Jewish. It was a film he knew he needed to make, not just for himself, but for the world. During the Holocaust, Spielberg's family lost a number of relatives. Yet in the 90s, Holocaust deniers were becoming disturbingly common. So instead of taking the profits from the film, Spielberg used all of the money to create the Shoah Foundation. For decades, the Shoah Foundation has documented the stories of Holocaust survivors, preserving their memories for future generations. Earlier that same year, he released another film that flipped the entire industry on its head, Jurassic Park. For the first time, CGI characters shared the screen with humans. The limitations of special effects melted away, and a whole new era of filmmaking began. CGI is everywhere now, but it started with Jurassic Park. Around the same time, Spielberg was going through changes in his personal life. For one, he forgave his dad. Spielberg himself got divorced in 1989 and remarried in 1991. His own experience with love and fatherhood taught him that things were more complex than they seemed. Now that things were good with his dad, Spielberg decided to honor him in the way he knew best, from behind the camera. Growing up, he would listen to his dad tell war stories with his buddies, and Spielberg wanted to show what soldiers like his dad really went through. No romanticism, no glory, just war and all of its horror. He delivered in the form of Saving Private Ryan. The film's portrayal of D-Day was so intense, veterans had to be escorted out of theaters. It may have left some moviegoers a bit queasy, but it sparked conversations. Grandparents opened up about their experiences, and books about World War II were flying off the shelves. It has been over 25 years since Saving Private Ryan came out, and there may not be as much family drama in his life, but Spielberg has been just as inspired. His focus on father-son relationships in his films has never changed, and neither has his tendency to win awards and sell out theaters. With every film, he offers a piece of himself to the audience, especially in The Fabelmans, because, it's literally about his own life. His consistency is even more impressive when you consider how much he creates and creates and creates, not just as a director, but as a producer. Men in Black? He produced that. Shrek? He produced that too. Transformers, True Grit, Twisters, all produced by Spielberg. Even at 77 years old, he still hasn't stopped. Go to IMDb and you'll find he's currently producing over 20 movies and TV series. If I were him, I'd be on an island with a margarita. But that's not Steven. He's still making movie magic. He isn't stopping anytime soon.